Trump-Carney showdown. Will Main Street or Maple Street pay the price? Over the weekend, I had an opportunity to visit the Twins Day Festival in Twinsburg, Ohio. And there I met Canadians all over the place, from Toronto, from Quebec, and other places inside of Canada. What stood out? Everybody had an opinion about trade and how they were valuing the relationship between the United States and Canada, and yes, taking trips to places like Twinsburg, Ohio. And they were all saying that the August 1st deadline could change a lot of things in that relationship. So by the end of this video, you'll see why it's not just about tariffs. It's really about culture, it's really about economics, and it's really about families and preserving a long-term relationship between the United States, Canada, and the rest of the Anglosphere. So there is that August 1st deadline that has come and gone, and I want to make sure that we're kind of taking a better look at how this is impacting the way people think, the way they act, and the way they spend. Trump is pushing hard on agriculture, automobiles, and energy. Carney's team is scrambling to protect jobs without appearing to be weak in this story. A Canadian visitor told me that politics is politics, and tariffs, if they do spike, it's going to be something that turns into we're just going to stay home, we're just going to shop local, and we don't need to visit the United States. And this story echoed over and over again because the visitors I met this weekend were from places like Vermont, Michigan, New York, and the fact is that there's plenty of trade dollars that come from Canada to those places. And likewise, there are plenty of dollars from the United States that go to Canada, and nobody wants to see a slowdown in the tourism industry. But there's more to the story. On Main Street inside of the United States, there is renewed concern about illegal immigration and, of course, fentanyl. And I'm here to say the people I spoke to this weekend, they told me for sure those are real things. They're not just made up. While they're not easily tracked, the fact of the matter is, people say specifically that we have a porous border between the United States and Canada. That's not the problem, but what's coming across that border, illegal immigration and fentanyl, really is a significant problem. And the fact is, it's not just about dollars. It really is about quality of life here inside of the United States. And I beg to say that this really is a national security issue. So tariffs do hit places like Ohio, New York, Michigan, Montana, yes, folks, even Idaho. The fact is that there is a very, very porous border between the two countries, and very much of the Canadians rely on the United States, and much of the United States relies on Canada. But the fact is that tourism will be impacted because trips here to the United States already are expensive. A few more dollars and some of these people just won't show up here. And that means fewer restaurant tabs, fewer hotel stays, and of course, lost local sales tax in the process. And make no question about it, whether you live on Maple Street or whether you live on Main Street, the fact is that both sides want to make sure that there is a good relationship because there is much more benefit by having good relations than having bad ones. And Trump's tariffs really are about money and influence inside of North America, like there's no question about it. But they're also about national security, and those are things that can't be overlooked. On the other hand, Canada needs U.S. dollars, but maybe equally as important, Canada holds rare earth minerals, and that's no joke because they're really important to the U.S. auto industry and the U.S. defense industry. They also hold oil sands and other critical minerals that the United States needs. So if the relationship frays, the fact is, China could just step in. One Ontario visitor put it bluntly, we'd rather sell to the United States, but if necessary, we will sell to other players like China. The U.S. must decide whether they want a relationship or whether they want leverage, whether they want to have a good relationship or whether they want to have economic turmoil between the two countries. So what this means to you, no matter where you are inside the Anglosphere, the fact is that for viewers 45 plus in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K., tariffs really could affect your cost of living, retirement, and savings. And of course, make no question about it, there has been wide fluctuations inside the stock market if that's where your savings are being held. Contractors, farmers, and other business owners are starting to feel some of these rippling effects I've mentioned before in a previous episode that newspaper publisher, for instance, getting whacked. Why? Because his newspaper is published inside of Canada and is sold inside of the United States. Simple things like paper costs, print costs, tariffs are affecting this and completely hurting his business. One Canadian visitor said, "We'd hate to see the friendship break over paperwork." The Canadian visitor really was right. The bottom line is paperwork really shouldn't decide prosperity. And in the big picture, tariffs really aren't about this month's news. They're really part about a long-term relationship between the longest demilitarized border inside the world. And they're part of a long-term chess game, I think. Think rare earth deals, think currency moves, and think about all other trade alliances between the United States and Canada. They really are precious, and they really mean prosperity for both countries. The real question is, do we secure the friendship now or do we fight over it later? And that's something that we all need to take into consideration. And I've got to say, right here in the United States, we want nothing but prosperity for both nations. And of course, we do need security about some of the things that are lingering issues inside the United States. Immigration is an ongoing concern, and it just won't go away. And of course, we have very porous borders, and if drugs like fentanyl really are an issue, and I'm here to say that plenty of the people who shared stories this weekend from places like Michigan, New York, Vermont, they said those are very real situations and they must be addressed. And so, whether it's Canada, whether it's the United States, we're all in this mess together. And the sooner we realize it, the better off that we are. Because what's good for the United States is quite often good for Canada in the long run. And what's good for Canada in the long run is usually good for the United States. The bottom line is same language, same culture, and much of the same interests lie between this, and not just interests in terms of what we see on TV, but maybe more importantly, long-term economic interests of making sure that North America is prosperous today, tomorrow, and 50 years from now. Hi, I'm Brian. Thanks for joining me for the Economic Report. Make sure you are liked and subscribed so I can deliver to you on a daily basis. I do lives 4 times a week, and of course, I respond to all comments. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you next episode.